steel toes, big dreams, big goals, working for the money.
Welcome to Pimpy's Investment Chat, where we keep investment talk simple. And here's your host, Pimpy.
Oh yeah, black gold. What is up, peeps? There's a lot going on. We know the budget was passed, but there's another situation happening, and this is one that I warned about. So let's get into this. Before we get started, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button. If you're not a subscriber, please do so, because when you do, it helps out the channel, and I certainly do appreciate it. If you're thinking about buying gold and silver, head on over to our friends at Miles Franklin. The link will be down below in the description. When you make your purchase, make sure you use promo code Pimpy, P-I-M-P-Y, and they'll take care of you. If you have any additional questions, you can reach us over here at this phone number or over here at this particular email. For all orders over $10,000, reach out by email and we'll make sure that you get a great deal. So come on over to Miles Franklin and add to your precious metal inventory. Iraq's parliament approves 2024 budget with mixed signals for job seekers. So the Iraqi parliament on Monday approved the 2024 budget, bringing some relief to pensioners and farmers, but offering little hope for new job seekers. So that is not good. Remember, a big chunk of Iraq's youth are not employed, and they're the ones that usually rise up and raise hell. Remember, the Parliamentary Finance Committee told the news that the law passed earlier today does not allocate a budget for citizens seeking a government job as contractors or permanent employees. Existing employees can still transfer between departments and ministries upon approval from both parties and within their respective salary brackets and financial allocations. However, it's allocated funds for university and school student stipends, increased employee allocations by 4 trillion dinars to cover salaries for current employees, retirees, and contract workers. Additionally, 1.25 trillion dinars are earmarked for a raise for retirees, and funds are secured for end-of-service bonuses by both civilian and military retirees. The budget, according to lawmakers, expanded social welfare coverage to include over 650,000 new families. Yikes! And increased the capital of real estate banks by 500 billion dinars to meet housing loan demands for citizens. 5 trillion dinars are allocated to cover farmers' dues for wheat and barley purchases. Earlier today, the Parliament's media office announced that the lawmakers passed the tables that sees an increase in the country's spending to 211 trillion dinars. In June 2023, Iraq passed a 3-year budget that included a record 152 billion in spending allocated to 12.6% to the semi-autonomous Kurdish region. And you still got content creators out there telling you what? Oh man, they can't do this. They can't go into the negative. They got to increase the Iraqi dinar's exchange rate. Before we get there though, let's touch on the other areas that the exchange rate is going to affect. But first, this is not good. Iran's allies in Iraq are firing at Israel. What if they draw blood? What if they draw blood? What do you think is going to happen? This is really going to put the Democrats up against the ropes. Biden already said that they weren't going to get involved with Israel. They weren't going to help him and then turn around and change his mind. This is an election year. If one of these Iranian-backed militia groups draw blood on Israel, Israel's going to turn right towards the United States and say, what are you going to do about this? And it's going to force the United States to respond. We don't want that to happen. Iranian-backed Shiite armed groups in Iraq have ramped up rocket and missile attacks on Israel in recent weeks, raising concerns in Washington and amongst some Iranian allies of potential Israel retaliation and regional escalation should they draw blood. Though the attacks, often from hundreds of miles away, are not seen by the Western officials and Israel experts as posing the same level of threat as Israel's point-blank strikes by Hamas and Hezbollah. They have increased in numbers and sophistication. At least 2 have hit their targets, and 2 usually out of 100. So, but even so, at least 2 have hit their targets, and many have had to be shot down by the United States and Israel defenses, according to U.S. official and public statements by Israel military. This is what I'm talking about. These Iranian-backed militia groups screw everything up for Iraq. Let's hope that they don't hit anything important. Now, let's get into the other part of this equation regarding the exchange rate. Oil slides to a 4-month low as OPEC Plus deepens bearish sentiment. Oil extended declines to the lowest price since February, as OPEC Plus plans to loosen its production curbs this year, deepens the market's bearish sentiment. So what OPEC was trying to do was stabilize the cost by cutting production. And what does that do? Well, obviously, if you cut production, that means there's less oil available on the market and people are willing to pay a higher price. Except for there's another part of that equation. You might be cutting production to try to increase the price, but what happens if you have a rival that says no problem and they increase their production and causing oil prices to fall? Well, then you're screwed. The output cuts are scheduled to start unwinding as early as October, adding barrels to the market beset by persistent concerns about demand and robust supplies from outside the group. The perception that geopolitical risk to crude supplies are ebbing has also added to the declines. And here is OPEC's rival. West Texas Intermediate drops 1.6% to trade around $73 a barrel on Tuesday. On an intraday basis, the price earlier slid to the lowest since February the 6th. So market watchers had expected OPEC Plus to extend cuts through the end of the year, and reaction to Sunday's deal was mixed, including doubts about whether the group will be able to ramp up production as rival suppliers surge. Key alliance members have pumped above their assigned quotas recently as well. So if Iraq keeps cutting their oil production, which means they are giving less barrels of oil out there, well, then the amount of money that comes into Iraq obviously drops unless they drive the price up and people pay it. Well, then the rise in the oil price will make up for the lack of production. But if there's somebody else willing to increase their oil supply in order to cover the demand for oil, well, then not only does the oil price go down, but your production is down as well. So you get less money coming into your government. See how that works? And here they are. The United States is the rival, ironically, to OPEC. See how their price per barrel is $72.95 and going down? Well, look what it's doing to the other prices. Driving it down. So how is Iraq going to make up for that money? You see, everything was fine and dandy when they were getting somewhere around $90 a barrel. Of course, they were happy and spending money like crazy. And what did I say would be the issue about the fact that they were budgeting for $70 per barrel of oil? That they weren't going to be able to maintain that the price would eventually drop and they would end up at a deficit. And look what's happening. Oil prices are under pressure as bearish sentiment builds due to OPEC Plus underwhelming the market with its commitment to extend its voluntary cuts to the third quarter 2024 and its base cuts until the end of 2025. So what was OPEC's response to this? Well, let's cut more. Iraq rejects more oil output limits at the upcoming OPEC Plus summit. So Iraq says, screw that. We'd rather ramp up production. And even though the prices are lower, we produce more barrels of oil to sell to make up for that loss. Iraq's oil minister said on Saturday that the country had made enough voluntary oil production cutbacks and would not agree to any more cuts implemented by OPEC Plus and its next meeting in early next month. According to the sources familiar with the situation, OPEC Plus, which includes Russia and other non-OPEC producers, may extend some voluntary output cuts if demand does not improve. Iraq can't afford for that to happen because then they start digging into their foreign currency reserves to help cover this. So let me tell you what happens. When oil prices fall, countries like Iraq, which heavily rely on oil exports for revenue, face economic challenges. If oil prices continue to decline, Iraq's overall revenues from oil exports decreases, impacting the ability to generate foreign currency reserves. In such a scenario, raising the exchange rate of the Iraqi dinar could potentially exacerbate the economic situation rather than improve it. So now, if oil prices continue to fall, where is the incentive for Iraq to increase their exchange rate? I keep telling you guys, it's not a matter of just pulling them on out your butt, sprinkling around some unicorn pixie dust, raising the exchange rate, and that'll answer all your problems. Nope, that's not how it works. WTI crude impact on Iraq's economy. The price of West Texas Intermediate crude oil can significantly impact Iraq's economy due to its heavy reliance on oil revenues. Iraq heavily depends on oil exports for government revenue, with more than 90% of its income coming from oil sales. Therefore, fluctuations in the price of WTI crude directly affects Iraq's budget planning and economic stability. I know you got all these content creators out there to keep trying to tell you guys, no, all they have to do is just increase their exchange rate and all their problems will be solved. That's because they don't know what the hell they're talking about. It isn't just a matter of changing the exchange rate and everything being okay. In some cases, increasing the exchange rate can have a reverse effect, a negative effect on Iraq, and that's not what we want to happen. I'd rather Iraq just take its time, move slowly, and increase the Iraqi dinar exchange rate in increments. But right now, until they can somehow stop the bleeding that's happening with the price of oil going down, this is not a good situation for Iraq. And that's something I warned about last year when they were talking about the tripartite budget being around $70 per barrel. Anyways, you guys let me know what you think. I look forward to hearing from you. I'm out.